beige interior. And I said, Mom, this is the car. You have to buy this car for me. And y'all know, son, you know we went out that weekend, right? And you know I came back with that Ford Bronco 2 Eddie Bauer edition. How many of you remember your very first car? Raise your hands up high, please, if you remember your first car. Do me a favor, on 3, everybody just say out loud what your first car was. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, y'all remember that feeling of your very first car. Y'all remember that feeling. So I'm so excited. That Sunday night, I'm calling up all my friends. I'm like, here's the game plan, okay? I got this Ford Bronco 2 Eddie Bauer edition. I want y'all to meet me Monday right by the bus stop. Why do you think I want them to meet me by the bus stop? Yeah, so all my friends riding the bus can see my new car, right? And so I'm so excited, I can't wait. And so one of the things is I left my keys in the kitchen. And so Sunday evening, I could barely sleep, like the night before the big event, the night before the wedding, the night before that big test. You know those kind of feelings. How many of y'all have had one of those nights it's hard to sleep? Raise your hand, say yes. And so I walk out into the kitchen. I'm like, wait a second, where are my keys? Now, I know I left my keys around here someplace. And I said, oh, my mom must have picked up my keys. And so I walk over to my mom's door. I say, hey, Mom, did you pick up my keys by any chance? Now, my mom has a pretty strong Haitian accent. And so she opens up the door and she goes, NZ, baby, you know mommy does not have very much money. She was able to get you the car with a loan. But baby, until you get a job and you can pay for the insurance, the car, baby, is gonna sit right there. But I said, but Mom, please, you don't understand already. I talked to my friends. I told them to meet me by the bus stop. She said, NZ, you're not listening, baby. Until you get a job and you pay for the insurance, the car, baby, is gonna do what? Success Women's Conference? Sit right there. But I said, Mom, my 16-year-old reputation is on the line. She said, NZ, you're not listening to me, baby. I'm gonna tell you one more time. Until you get a job and you can pay for the insurance, what she say, Success Women's Conference, the car's gonna what? Sit right there. And then she ended it by saying, today, baby, you taking the bus. I said, oh man, not the bus. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And so I remember getting on the bus. I'm sitting all the way towards the back. I'm hoping that nobody's gonna see me. And so we start pulling up by the school and I'm ducking down low. Everybody gets off the bus. The bus driver looks back at me like, get off the bus, young man. I start tiptoeing real slow to get off the bus. The moment I step off the bus, one of my friends sees me and goes, hey, Andy, is that your new car? It's so big. It's so yellow. And then another guy trying to be funny goes, hey, look, it's Bus Boy Andy. And so for the rest of the day, I'm walking around, and every little corner I go around, they're calling me Bus Boy Andy. I'm like, man, this is crazy. And so all day long at school, all I keep thinking about is where am I gonna go so I could get a job, be able to pay for this insurance. Then it dawned on me, there's a grocery store real close to my house. And I was within a bike riding distance. I said, I'm going there. And so the moment I got home, first thing I did was I threw my book bag off, I jumped on the bicycle, and I rode that bicycle as fast as I can over to the public supermarket. Now, when I got there, there's a store manager, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Olson. I turned in my application, and I said, Mr. Olson, when should I expect to hear from you? He said, hey, young man, as soon as we have an opening, we'll let you know. I said, okay, Mr. Olson. And so I waited a couple days, and I heard nothing. Meanwhile, I'm at school, and where they calling me? Bus Boy Andy. And so I'm like, man, this is not cool. And so I said, clearly, perhaps Mr. Olson has forgotten about me. And so I said, I got to go back and check in on Mr. Olson. I get back home, I throw my book bag off, I jump on the bicycle. Y'all mind help me? Y'all get on the bicycle with me. Put your hands up like this and move those feet as fast as you can. And I rode that bicycle, yes, as fast as I could, back over to the grocery store. And now I see Mr. Olson. I say, Mr. Olson, sir, I came in here a couple days ago. He said, hey, young man, I remember who you are. Don't worry, we have your application. As soon as there's an opening, we'll let you know. I said, well, Mr. Olson, do you need me to call you, sir? He said, don't worry, don't call us, young man, we'll call you. And so I wait. A couple of days go by. I hear nothing. I wait Success Women's Conference. A week goes by. I still hear nothing. 2 weeks go by, and I hear nothing. At this point, I'm trying to figure out what's worse, not having a car or having a car that you can't even drive. There's only so many times that I can wax on, wax off, and wash this car. I'm like, this is not working out. And so I remember being so frustrated. I'll never forget this. It was a Friday. And the moment I got home from school, y'all know what I did. What'd I do? I threw that book bag off. I jumped on the bicycle, get on the bike with me, and I rode that bicycle as fast as I could back over to that public supermarket. Now, this time when I get there, Mr. Olson spots me. And the man starts walking in the opposite direction. I'm starting to think that he's trying to avoid me, and maybe perhaps I'm being a little annoying. And so I say to myself, I've got to do something differently. I've got to be able to get this man's attention. And so I run up to Mr. Olson, and I say, I got to do something different. I say, Mr. Olson, sir, just listen to me for a second, sir. My name's Andy Enriquez, sir. I attend school at Plantation High School. I turned 16 a couple of months ago, sir. I've been begging my mom to buy me a car, sir. She bought me a Ford Bronco 2 Eddie Bauer edition, black with beige side trim, beige interior. It's brand new. Well, it's not really brand new. It's got 80,000 miles, but it's brand new to me, sir. And sir, she won't let me drive the car until I can get a job. I've been coming in here, and you haven't let me get a job, sir. Mr. Olson, sir, don't you remember your first car? Mr. Olson's entire demeanor changed. And Mr. Olson started thinking. He said, yeah, I had a Chevy Camaro, young man. He said, what'd you say your name was? I said, Andy Enriquez, sir. And Mr. Olson walked over and grabbed a stack of applications. And when he grabbed the stack of applications, he started flipping through the applications what seemed like eternity. And finally, he got to my application, which was at the bottom of the stack. And I watched Mr. Olson. He took my application from the bottom of the stack, and he put it at the top of the stack. And then he said, hey, young man, before you can start working here, you're going to have to come in for orientation tomorrow at noon. I said, well, wait a second, Mr. Olson. Are you saying I have the job? He's saying, yes, young man, I'm saying you have the job. And right away, I was like, yes? They can no longer call me Busboy Andy. Now they're going to have to call me Bronco Andy. Wait till you see me coming. Bronco Andy. Wait till you see me coming. And so I could not wait. But can I tell you something? I want you to think about this for a moment. You see, up until the moment that I shared my story with Mr. Olson, I was in a stack of applications competing on the exact same parameters as everybody else. But the moment that I shared my story, Mr. Olson took my application from the bottom of the stack and he put it at the top of the stack. In other words, I went from being bottom of consideration to top of consideration. How many of you would love to go from being last of consideration to top of consideration in the eyes of your customers, your prospects, and the people that you're looking to influence? Raise your hands up high and say yes. The other thing I realized is this. I had been trying to influence Mr. Olson, but I was unsuccessful. All my previous attempts, he dismissed me and told me to come back. And finally, I was like, you know what? I've got to do something different. And the moment that I shared my story, I was able to get Mr. Olson from dismissing me and saying no to finally saying yes. How many of you would like to get more yeses for your products, more yeses for your services, more yeses around the opportunities that you present? Raise your hands up high and say yes. I tell you, if you want to do that what you have to begin to do is start finding ways to tell your story. You see, every single one of you has powerful, compelling stories. That if you share those stories, it's going to separate you from your competition. That if you share those stories, it's going to take you from being last of consideration to top of consideration. That if you share those stories, if you find a way to share those stories, you are finally going to start getting more yeses in your life. And so I am going to suggest, highly recommend, that you begin to share and tell your stories. Give somebody a high five. Say, you better tell your story. You better tell your story. You better tell your story. And so you had an opportunity to see the little trailer reel of my upcoming documentary. For those of you the first time hearing from me, you know my parents came from the poorest country in Western Hemisphere. And one of the things they told me, they said, Andy, in order for you to have success, you got to go to school, get a good education, and get a good job. Has anybody else out there heard anything remotely similar? Raise your hand. Say yes. And so I followed the script. I went to school at Florida State University. I got my undergraduate's degree in accounting. I got my master's degree in corporate accounting. I even graduated summa cum laude. That's like a fancy way of saying I spent way too much time studying when I should have been hanging out. And then while I was in the master's program, I studied for the CPA exam and became a licensed CPA. And then I landed a job with one of the largest professional service firms in the world, a company by the name of PricewaterhouseCoopers. But can I tell you something? Here I am working with this amazing company. I got every reason to do well. And yet and still, I'm feeling as if my life is following a basic routine. And I'm saying to myself, there has got to be more than this. How many of you have ever been at a place in your life where you said, there has got to be more than this? Raise your hands up, please. And I'm going to tell you right now, I played around for a year and a half in my mind, talking about the possibilities, thinking about the things that I wanted to do. And then it would be December of 2004 that became my defining moment. You see, there's an actor by the name of Kevin Costner. You may have heard of him. In one of his movies called Tin Cup, here's what he said. He said, when the defining moment comes, Success Women's Conference, either you define the moment or the moment defines you. Either you define the moment, you decide that you're going to stretch, you're going to grow, that you're going to do something different as a result of this conference, that you're going to do something completely different so that you can produce different results in your life, or the moment would define you, and you'll play it small, and you don't do that thing that you were called to do. And so for me, December of 2004 became my defining moment, because that was the moment that I finally decided to step out there and pursue my goals and my dreams. And as a result of stepping out there, amazing things began to happen. I connected with this gentleman by the name of Les Brown. He showed me how to be able to share stories and connect with different audiences. I started picking up clients like Office Depot, Pratt & Whitney, Accenture, Bacardi, NASA. I had the opportunity to be in Black Enterprise, Huffington Post, and then I got on television and national television. And then I got opportunities to travel all around the world and speak. And I share that with you in the words of my mentor, not to impress you, but to simply impress upon you that you are looking at a former CPA. Like, CPAs are not known for being storytellers. No offense to the accountants out there. And so when I share that with you, what it means is that it is a skill that every single one of us can develop. And so here's what I honestly believe. I believe that this conference is going to be a defining moment for all of you. I believe that there's something in you that's about to shift. I believe that you're about to completely change everything, the landscape of your life and everything that's taking place. And as I close out, I want to leave you with one final short story, and I want you to never make sure you forget this. But before I do that, I want you to give somebody a high five real quick right now and say, show up for your life, show up for your life. You see, my mom came to the United States with less than $150 to her name. One of her first jobs was down in Miami, Florida, making up the beds. She used to make up the hotel beds, and one of the reasons when I go to different hotels that I leave a tip is because I realized that at one point that was my mother making up those hotel beds. One of her second jobs, she was working in a purse factory for 8 hours a day. My mom stood in the same location and reversed those purses and prepared them for stitching, but she did not complain because she understood that if you want to make things happen in life, sometimes you have to be willing to do the things today that others won't do so that you can have the things tomorrow that others won't have. And after 20-something years of being in this country, my mom saw her golden opportunity. She saw a freestanding building in Delray Beach, Florida. She said that would be a perfect place for me to start a restaurant. And so my mom opened up a Haitian restaurant. The first year, she began to have profits. The second year, things are really going well. And in the third year, on a Saturday, she's at home and she gets a knock on the door. When my mom opens up the door, there's a gentleman on the other side. He hands my mom some legal documents. When my mom starts flipping through the legal documents, what she realizes is that the property is going to foreclosure. Now, she can't understand because she had been paying the landlord every single month on time. And she's like, why is this property going to foreclosure? And so there's a telephone number at the bottom of the paper, and she decides to go ahead and call them up. She goes, hello? Yes, this is Marie. I received the paper in the mail. It says that the property is going to foreclosure, but I don't understand. every month I pay the landlord on time. And so the woman realized that my mom didn't understand what was going on. And so what she said to my mom, she said, listen, even though you've been paying the landlord has a mortgage. The mortgage is attached to the property. And because of that, the property is going to foreclosure. And my mom said, well, do you think I can show up and maybe whoever buys the property, I can stay? And you know what she said? Ma'am, it's not even worth you showing up. Because if you do, no one's going to really want to keep a little Haitian restaurant there. And so my mom thought her dreams were going to be gone. But then she thought for a moment, I'm going to at least show up. She said, I'm going to show up because I don't know what may happen. Maybe I can convince whoever gets that building if I can stay. And so my mom drives up to Delray Beach, Florida, 2 weeks later. And when she gets there, she's expecting a room full of investors like this. But to her surprise, there's only two people there. The auctioneer and the representative from the bank. Before my mom can make out what's happening, the auctioneer steps up to the podium. He goes, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the bidding process on 540 West Atlantic Avenue. If you're here to bid on the property, please raise your hand. The representative from the bank naturally raised her hand. My mom, who had no intentions on bidding on the property, doesn't even know how it works. My mom took an act of faith and raised her hand. Martin Luther King said faith is taking the first step without even seeing the entire staircase. The auctioneer said, very well, we're going to start the bidding process at $30,000. The representative from the bank raised her hand, said $30,000. My mom doesn't even know how the process works, accent and all. My mom busts out, $35,000. It goes over here to the bank resident. Bank resident says $36,000. Gets back over to my mom. She's a fast learner, $37,000. And then it's going on and on. Now they're at $40,000. Now they're at $50,000. Now they're at $60,000. Now they're at $70,000. It gets back over to the bank resident. Bank resident says $74,000. My mom, calm, collect, still in the game, $75,000. It gets over here to the banker, the banker says $76,000. Now, my mom's starting to get a little attitude. Because my mom's like, I don't have any money anyway. We must be playing with Monopoly money. We can go all day. And so my mom, attitude and all, my mom busts out and goes, $76,500. But this time, the auctioneer is standing here. And the representative from the bank starts flipping up the flipboard, and the representative says nothing. The auctioneer's got to keep the process going. He goes $76,500 going once, no answer. He goes $76,500 going twice, no answer. He goes $76,500 sold to the woman who was willing to show up, to the woman who was born in the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. My mom is excited she won the bid, then she realized, hold on, I got to come up with this money. And at that time, they gave you 30 days to come up with the money. My mom would make phone calls and call every single one of her friends, every one of her family members. Some would lend her $1,000, some $2,000, some $3,000, some $5,000. And in those 30 days, my mom was 3 days left, and she was $30,000 short. And my mom said maybe it wasn't meant to be. My mom's phone rings, and it's her friend Yvonne. And Yvonne said, Maria, I know you've been calling. My mom said, no, Yvonne, it's too late. I still need $30,000. Up until that point, the most she had gotten was $5,000. Yvonne said, no, you don't understand. I've been saving up money to buy a house with my husband. We have exactly $30,000 in savings. We talked about it. We prayed about it. We want to lend you the money. My mom didn't know what to say. But how many know she ran over and got the money before Yvonne changed her mind? My mom would get the money from Yvonne and all the rest of the people. She would go to the bank and get a cashier's check, drive up to the Palm Beach courthouse, go to that big, thick cashier's glass, and slide that check through the thing. And that day, my mom went from being the tenant to being the landlord, all because she was willing to show up. Success Women Conference, there's going to be a moment somebody's going to tell you it's not worth it. Why even bother? Why show up for the interview? Why show up for the opportunity? Why launch the coaching? Why do that thing that you've got to do? And I got to remind you, you got to show up for your life. You got to show up in spite of the circumstances. You got to show up in spite of whatever is going on. Because if you don't, nobody else will. Give somebody a high five and say, show up for your life, show up for your life, show up for your life. Success Women's Conference. As much as you've chosen to be here at this moment, you were chosen to be here. Things are about to shift and change in your life. But you've got to remember this story. And you've got to remember to show up. My name is Andy Enriquez. I thank you for our time together.
Hey, let's give him a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give him a hand. Show up, 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 give him a hand. Good job, brother. Good job. Take a bow. Andy Enriquez. You got to do what? Show up for your what? I got excited. You got to show up for your what? You've already showed up. You're here. That's so cool. Isn't that cool? All right. The best is still yet to come as they're setting up. Now, they do want me to let everyone know that's here today from Success Conference. There's a very, very special gift. And the special gift is you're all invited, everyone that's here today, tomorrow to the coaching sessions. So if you want to come, there's no charge. It's been picked up by a sponsor. You're able to come tomorrow. Now, I will come back when they finish and give you the exact address to go to. But it's only for the people in this room right here. You all can show up. Does that sound good? Say yes! Say thank you, Success Conference! They're in the back. They can hear you. They can hear you. All right. In just a moment, we're going to bring up the panel. Step up. It's your turn. So coming to the stage, first, that's your cue. First, coming to the stage, Tiffany Largie. Let's give it up for Tiffany. Let's give it up for Tiffany. Do the damn thing. I like that. Oh my God, I like that. I like that. I like that. Come on down. Now give a bow. Don't stop the music. Give a bow. There you go. You work for me. I got you good dance. Lord Jesus. All right, coming up to the stage. Next, step up. It's your what? Turn. Trish Lito. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Why did they stop the music? All right, come on right here. Turn around and bow. All right, have a seat. All right, coming up, next to the stage, step up. It's your turn. None other than Danielle Jerry Harmon. You can music. All right. There you go. Now, you know, we was here yesterday. Give her a shot. All right. Great job. All right, showtime. Coming to the stage. Next, none other than the one and only E.R. Spalding. Oh, she got a little jam. She got the jam. No, wait. You gotta bow. There you go. And your moderator, the one and only, right here from Mississippi, the one, the fabulous Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes. I know you got jam. I think I need another cheer. I'll be right back.
All right. So it is time for you to step up. And we've got some great women here who have already taken the step. And not only have they stepped up, stepped out, and about to step into their next. So I'm so excited to have the opportunity to moderate, and I will take my seat now so that we can do this. So we are going to get started with asking the question of, what does stepping up mean for you? So we'll just kind of start down here with ER and pass it on down and have a great conversation.
All right. Well, stepping up means being prepared. And being prepared doesn't mean having all the answers, but it means having the courage that when you are asked, when you are called, that you are open to the yes. So I'll give an example. I did not know yesterday that I was going to be presenting actually the Success Women's Conference Academy. And Dorothy looked at me and she said, "Hey, baby girl, why don't you do it?" And I said, "Well, yes, let me go ahead and step up into my next." So again, it's just having the courage, even when you don't understand what the next step is, but just saying that I am going to be willing to play the game and get out there and make it happen.
That was good. Y'all can clap.
So
For me, I think stepping up is about falling back. I think that when we, in fact, I don't think it, I know, when we operate in surrender, when we raise our hands and take our hands off of it, then we open ourselves up for whatever is next so we can say yes. And so for me, stepping up is really about recognizing that it isn't about me, it's about me being a vehicle and being open to whatever comes my way and being so in alignment that when it comes, I can check in and know absolutely, unequivocally, immediately that either it is for me or it's not for me. And if I say no, it is a complete sentence.
Drop the mic, but not really.
No, this is
Don't
working.
break
Y'all
the
can
mic.
hear me, right? All right. So I think for me, I think stepping up means I feel like we all have that burning passion inside of us, that thing that we're like, oh, I just feel like I need to do that thing, right? So for me, I feel like stepping up means giving ourselves permission to allow that flame and that fire inside of us to be ignited and like spark that match, like make it happen, right? So step up means don't just stand there. Don't wait for other people to get in front of you. It's your turn, right? It's your turn. So step up means take that passion inside of you, light it up, and go ahead and give yourself permission to be the incredible person that you are and get in front of the people that you need in your life to start making that business happen for yourselves.
So for me, I think stepping up is making a decision to do the damn thing.
She put it on a t-shirt.
Which is true to the name of our company, which is do the damn thing. And the reason why is because sometimes we're looking at something and we're wondering to ourselves, am I prepared? Do I have enough? Am I ready? Do I have the resources? But I haven't accomplished X yet. And at the core of it, every single day we have to make a decision before the day starts that we're going to do the damn thing. You know, I personally don't believe that the world is divided between have and have-nots. I just believe that the world is divided by will and will-nots. So for me personally, every single day, even though I may or may not be ready, or even though I'm afraid, it doesn't change the fact that I have to step out anyways, because when you're called to do something, you just need to do it.
All right. So, you know, you have heard from these four great women about stepping up. And I know that many of you are on the verge or are ready to declare that it's your time. So help these ladies out in understanding when you knew it was your time. Was it something magical? Just kind of when did you know? We're going to reverse it this time. We'll start with you, Tiffany. But tell us when you knew it was your time.
Well, you know, for me, it's like you kind of get to a moment where you might be afraid, but what I want had to be bigger than my fear. And I had to be willing to allow my dream to be bigger than my fear. It doesn't mean that fear goes away, because you're still going to be afraid. You just make a decision in the midst of the fear to move anyways. So at that moment, it's like, it's kind of like, for me, it's either dream or die. Because nothing in nature was made to sustain. God didn't make any tree or flower to sustain. There's no such thing. And even though we can't see something dying on the outside, it's dying on the inside. And I know for a fact that if I'm not dreaming, if I'm not walking towards that dream, if I'm not living that dream, then I'm dying.
I think I've had a few moments in my entrepreneurial journey that have caused me to keep moving forward, and I call them I got pissed off moments, right? Like I got so pissed off that I either could have cried about it and felt sorry for myself, or I could have done something about it. And I'm an action taker. I've always been an action taker. So for me, it's when I get to a point where I'm so pissed off, I'm like, okay, I'm pissed because of whatever. What am I going to do to pivot that into being productive, right? So again, I've had a few times in my life, in my entrepreneurial journey, that's happened, but I just make the choice. I really just made the choice. So that was truly, it was over a few years ago, but that was a pivoting time for me. I got so pissed off that I said, you know what? I can either cry about it or I can do something about it. And I chose the latter of the two.
These answers are just amazing. Okay, so there have been many defining moments when I knew it was time for me to step up because it was my turn. The one that I think will help you the most was May of 2014. I was hosting one of my annual live events. That particular event was called Unleash Your Incredible Factor Live. It was an amazing event. You should have been there. You've missed it because I've moved on. But anyway, so the morning of the first day in 2014, I woke up. I was getting my hair done, my makeup done, and all of a sudden, it just dawned on me. We had 265 people from all over the world who were waiting for me to take the stage. Okay, nobody got excited about that. Like, could you get excited about 265 people coming to talk to you? And so I woke up that morning and I just knew that I knew. Have you ever had that moment where you just know that you know? Like, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, damn. When Jesus made me, man, he was showing the world what incredible looks like. And it was one of those kind of days, and I just knew that I had arrived, and that was the year we crossed the $1 million mark for the very first time, because it was my turn, and I walked into it. Because when it's your turn, you can't turn around, you can't question, you can't look left or right, you can only press. That stands for persistently running, expecting supernatural success. And so I pressed, and I was met at my press with everything I had been desiring up until that point, and I realized it was my turn.
So I think for me, I have teachers, I have parents who are teachers, and so with that comes a high degree of education, right, and learning, and going back to the foundational things that are always persistent. And what I know to be true is that in order to step into the breakthrough, there's always the breakdown, right? Because two objects can't occupy the same space at the same time. And in order to get through the resistance, you've got to get through the resistance. And in that, that's when I know it is always those moments when it is my time to step up and to step through, because everything is breaking down around me, right? Relationships are breaking down, emotions are breaking down, energy is breaking down, finances are breaking down. Everything around me begins to break down, and that's the indication, oh, there's something on the other side of that. And if you just allow yourself to continue to press forward, right, to give yourself permission to get pissed off, and to continue to move forward through it all and not give up, then you will arise as the next version of yourself, prepared for the next breakdown, because it's coming.
All right, that's great. I mean, because, you know, one of the things I picked up from all of you, and it reminds me of the saying, you know, that adversity guards the path to your success. And you got to decide, are you going to just cry about it and go home, or are you going to press forward, you're going to do the damn thing, you're going to get pissed off, or you're going to push through the resistance and get to your success. So we're getting ready to close out, and I always want to get people to think about different ways, because, you know, they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And many times people are thinking that they need to do things, but really what they need to do to get to their next and to make it their turn is to stop doing things. So I want to ask each of you, as you were making that transition from where you were just kind of getting along to when you really stepped into yours and you knew it was your time and you were in all the fabulousness of it, what were some things that you had to stop doing in order to get to your next? And we'll start with you, Yar.
I had to stop with the thinking, the doing, and actually stop being, and just really get into that quiet space where he says, be still, and know that I am. And it was one of those moments I was trying to figure out what that next step was going to be in my life, what it was that I was going to do next. And I kept asking the question, because I believe that curiosity is the birthplace of insight. And I kept asking the question, who am I? And I didn't have it readily available at the tip of my tongue in that moment. And so in the questioning and the curiosity of who am I, one morning I got up, I'm brushing my teeth, and has anyone ever had one of those visceral reactions where something just kind of happens and you don't know where it comes from? But I'm standing over the sink brushing my teeth, and I almost got blown back to my butt. And it was no one else in the room except God, right? And it was in that moment he told me, he was like, you are force majeure. And I was like, wow, okay. And that is a French term that's often used in contracts, and Dr. Stephanie Barnes knows that all too well. But at the end of the day, the literal translation for force majeure is an act of God. And that stopped everything. Because as an act of God, I had to realize that if I did not continue to open up and allow myself to be who he called me to be, who he formed me to be, who he knew that I was going to be in the womb, that I would forever be in this suffering that I had allowed myself, my humanity, to place me in. And it was in that moment that I had to stop and put my humanity over to the side and step into the fullness of who I was as this spiritual, magnificent, and successful woman. And that then gave me the ability to move forward and step into my greatness.
All right, awesome.
I want to throw my microphone at ER. But that would hurt her, and I don't want to hurt her. So what was the question? Oh, what do we need to stop doing? Okay. So you need to stop comparing yourself to other people. I said this a moment ago when I was talking about my fabulous self. You know, when God created you, he was showing off. He was showing the world what incredible looks like. That means you don't need to lose 1 pound. You don't need to buy 1 wig. You don't need to change anything about yourself. Who you are is already who you are supposed to be in order to step into who he created you to be and how he wants you to shape the planet. So you have to stop looking left and right and run your race. You have to put your blinders on. Like literally, I used to do this exercise a long time ago. I remember I was speaking at a conference, and I literally had people take pieces of paper out of their notebook and they're in a pair of glasses and guide the paper on either side so that they were forced to look straight ahead. If you've ever watched a horse race, think about Seabiscuit, right? He is running his race. He is not paying attention to his fellow horses. He is on his trajectory to get to the next level. Stop comparing yourself because there is no comparison. And if you would stop comparing, then you would have the energy to step up and step in and be everything that you're supposed to be in that moment because it's your turn.
So now I'm mad at you because you kind of took my answer, but when I stopped doing that, I want to tell you, this is 100% transparency. I stopped comparing myself to other people, but then I started kind of looking in myself to find out, okay, well, what do I own within my own skill set and my knowledge base right in here that's similar to what those other people had? What can I deliver? And what happened was I started to develop what's called imposter syndrome. So if I'm going to tell you to stop something, I want you to stop being so hard on yourself. Because being so hard on myself prevented me for a very long time from taking a stage. It prevented me from a very long time for producing info products and giving people courses and giving people coaching opportunities with me, right? So when I stopped with the imposter syndrome, and I had to have mentors that like tapped at me and said, what's like slapping me around proverbially and going, what's the matter with you? You're amazing at what you do, and you are your own person, right? So we are each individually our own person on this stage, and you are each individually your own person sitting in that chair. You have to love yourself, stop comparing yourself to other people, and stop comparing yourself to who you think other people perceive you as. You gotta own that for yourself and then step out into that for yourself so that you can tell your story so other people can't tell it for you.
All this violence on stage.
What you got? No.
I don't know. I'm trying to measure up. You know, I think getting to six figures for me was 100% about making a decision to own my own value, and to stop thinking small. And especially when it comes to owning your value, it was around me saying, yes, I still don't have a college education. Yes, I'm still black. Yes, I'm still a woman. Yes, I don't have a certification or license, and I have zero clue where dad is. Getting to seven figures for me, 110% was about me making a decision, not just to talk about my story, but to own my story. But not just the good and the bad, right? Because the good and the bad is really convenient, but it's the ugly part of our story that actually has the lessons that we need. It has the lessons that allows you to build a company culture, products, services, and all of the above that really teach you how to make money versus just making cash. So for me, I think crossing six figures, it was making a decision to no longer think small and to own my own value regardless of everybody else didn't care about my value. And then seven figures was 100% about me making a decision to own the ugly of my story, but not when it was comfortable, to all and everyone that was around me.
All right. So I hope that each of you has heard something from each of these women that encourages you to realize that it's time. It is your time, and it's time for you to step up, and it's time for you to declare that it is your time. And I just want to give each of these women, just give them another round of applause for being so awesome, for doing the damn thing, for getting pissed off, for pressing through, for pushing past the resistance, because that's truly what it takes. And it's your time to step up. Each of these ladies has shown us their way, and now you can learn from them how to do it your way. All right? Let's give them another round of applause. So now we get to step on up out of here. We need some music to step on up out of here. That was the cue for our music.
Ladies and gentlemen, give me a hand one more time. Give me a hand. Oh, one more time. You're not wearing heels, okay? So you can jump off there. You can just jump off the stage. Okay. Don't worry, we'll go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. All right, let's give it up one more time as we close out. And the way we're going to close out is we're going to bring the founder, the visionary for Success Conference, one of the three women that had the vision to put this all together and spent not only the time planning it, but trying to coordinate and then coordinate with multiple people. If you work with more than one person, it's a challenge. Imagine working with a number of different folks. How many know that's a challenge? Say yes. And they were able to do it and did a fabulous job and made it just. So with that being said, it is truly my honor and privilege to bring to the stage the person to close us out with her final thoughts and comments. And thank you so much for hanging out. Why don't you just give yourself a hand? Just give yourself a hand. Y'all are all amazing. Just hanging in it to the end, just supporting the conference. You could be any place, anywhere, but you chose to be here. So that's just amazing. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring to the stage the one and the only, the founder. Everyone stand to your feet. Everyone stand to your feet. Let's bring to the stage none other than Karen Cherry, the founder of Success Conference. Oh, she's on this side. Okay. 1 second. We're going to bring that other to the stage first before Karen.
Yesterday, we understand that for everyone, you have to have a commitment to finish, right, before you have the commitment to start. And each one of you, give yourselves a round of applause because